we are.
If you would like to add who you are and where you're from, I just dropped the link to the Google Doc again in the chat. It's a fun way to just see who's on this call and for you to feel like you can get involved. Your questions are welcome. This is for you. This is to be a time that I hope that you can walk away after this session and have more clarity about what you want your business to look like online and what kind of tools and services are out there in support of your business, whether it be in marketing or improving sales processes or creating your first website or refining an old website. And so a little bit more, just like a quick overview about myself and work at the NICE Center is that when the pandemic struck, however we want to say that, and businesses were shuttered, the NICE Center at North Dakota State University, which is the entrepreneurship center there, we have a team of NICE student fellows is what we call them. And when businesses shuttered and everything had to move online, we put out a call to say that we were available to help businesses make that transition. And since we made that offer, so mid-March, we've served close to 100 businesses in getting online or improving their marketing processes. And so we have a lot of experience in doing that, and we want to extend that to you as well. We want you to feel like you can get that support. And so what we're offering is one-to-one support. So you'll jump on a call with me and we'll figure out like, what is the best strategy for you and your business, and what's going to be the most beneficial in the short and the long term. In the short term is like, what can we do today, this week to make things better? And then the long term in the sense that, what are some tools and tricks that you could learn that you can maintain so that it's not something that will be built that you can never update or manage yourself. We want you to feel totally empowered to run these tools. And that's where our panelists come in today, because they are business owners. They are running every aspect of the business, which includes the marketing and the online sales and managing that online presence. And we selected them because they're doing a really awesome job. So we want to learn from them. We want to see what they have, what's kind of insights that they have for us. And I'm so excited. I see that some people are dropping their names in the Google Doc. I see Mary from Baldwin, North Dakota, and I'm not going to say it right. Podal Stoll Farms. Felicity Merritt from Red River Market, Red River Market intern. So love seeing people in that document. And please, I have a lot of questions for these panelists because I want to dig into their expertise and have them share with us. But there is on that document a little section you'll see questions for the panel, and drop your questions in there. And if you have topics that you want to make sure that we cover, you can also throw those in there so that we can make sure to cover everything that's important to you. But the way that we're kind of approaching it is we're going to look at what kind of marketing tools are available, what kind of sales tools, and when we say that, it's like payment processing platforms and services, and distribution, like how you fulfill orders and how you can use online tools to do that. And then the third category is communications with customers. And that's thinking of it in terms of communications beyond marketing. And maybe that's just formalizing a way that you already communicate. We want to do what works for you. And so to kind of dive into that, we want to see what works for our panelists. So I'm gonna share out a question, and whoever of our panelists wants to jump in on them, we'd love to hear perspective from every single one of you. But I think to start, I'd just like to go into a high-level questioning of like, what does marketing look like for your business? And we have some excellent marketers on this panel. And so looking at both Instagram and Facebook, and they all have websites as well. They're using these tools to communicate their products or service and keeping their customers updated. So what is, I should also mention on that Google Doc, I listed, there's links to all of our panelists' social channels as well as websites. So you'll see offthedeckhot.com is down there, their Instagram, Facebook's listed, Garden Dweller Farm is down there, their Facebook and website, as well as Prairie Skybreads, and you can go check out. If you want to just peruse their gallery, and if you have questions maybe about specific posts or how they do that, that could be some inspiration. But yeah, just the first question just being just a high level, like what does marketing look like for your business? And is somebody want to take that first? And is it all on you? Do you hire somebody to do it? Do you do it like at the beginning of the week for the whole week, or is it just sort of like when you feel inspired? I'm curious what it looks like for you. I'll popcorn
Okay.
Jazmine. She looks ready.
So I guess our marketing approach, so we use a variety of different tools. So we are really Facebook users, because predominantly our demographic of people we have found uses Facebook. So right now I'm sitting pretty because I like Facebook. So we use Facebook, we use Instagram, we also use something called MailChimp. And then we do have an online website that crashed last night, so I'm overtired. And so we have a variety of those things. So marketing for us is a variety of different things. But I tend to do it during pandemic times. I did a morning update, an afternoon update, and then invited them to pre-order off of our website in the evening. In other times, we have a bit of a, if you could describe our feel, it might not necessarily be polished all the time. It's sort of like the real, this is what's happening to us in the moment. And so we have some of that going on too. So I do just kind of post when I'm inspired or if something funny has happened or something like that. So that's our approach.
Cool. Yeah, and what about you, Rachel? Of Off the Deck Hot Sauce.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Rachel Utecht, and I own Off the Deck Hot Sauce and Flannel Fizz craft soda and tonic. So I kind of got two different products that we're trying to market to the public using social media. I would describe across both brands that it's almost like a constant chipping away at getting marketing content out there, letting people know what the product is that we offer and how to access that, and then giving them a glimpse into the process of how we make these products. We're farm to bottle for the hot sauce. So it's just letting people see views of the farm, seeing views of us in the kitchen, and kind of short videos of us after we're done in the kitchen, kind of like Jazmine said, that unpolished view of what really goes on so that people can connect with us as people and then connect with our brand. And the same would go for the soda as well. A lot of it is just trying to do, at least one post a day if we can manage it. Sometimes that is something that on a Monday, I'll ramp up content for the entire week and schedule out posts that we'll post during high traffic periods of the day. I was really surprised that like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night is some of the highest traffic that we'll see on these posts, which makes no sense. And like lunch hour isn't so strong. So it's just kind of learning things like that and using things like Buffer. We also use CoSchedule to kind of help with scheduling those posts out too, just because we're busy people and we can't always be sitting in front of our computers to do those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Buffer and CoSchedule, and you mentioned that they are like scheduling tools. For anybody who's on the call who doesn't know what that is, could you explain that a little bit more, like what the tool is like and how you use it?
Sure. So I would say that, Buffer is going to be one of those that your cost of entry is lower, and it's a little bit more user friendly if you're not as tech savvy. But it's platforms that allow you to schedule your posts for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You pick the time window. They help you learn via analytics when your highest traffic periods are. And then if you say, I want to do a post Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week at 10 o'clock, you can put in photos, you can put in messages, links to your website, all of that to kind of help guide your customers through how to access you. And then they take it from there. You put it in the system, you schedule it, and then at those periods, basically it's an automated thing that takes over and publishes those pieces of content on your behalf.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. And also just kind of a fun side note that CoSchedule is a North Dakota-based tech company, one of the fastest growing tech companies in North Dakota right now. It started in Bismarck and they have an office in Fargo as well. really great tool. They set up like a calendar feature so you can see your entire calendar and then drop posts in on different days. So it has like a good visualization of, do I have this month covered? Am I saying anything? Am I engaging this month? And so it doesn't have that same sense of overwhelm of like, am I saying enough? Am I connecting enough? Because you can visualize it very clearly on the calendar. And I'm curious, I want to throw it to Holly, because plants get a lot of attention on social media. There's some pretty fiery Facebook groups all around like houseplants. I'm curious if you've tapped into any of those circles of people who are just kind of obsessed with since you're growing herbs and just a lot of like beautiful small plants. I'm curious if you've tapped into that group at all.
We haven't. Our clientele, our customers, are more either foodies or those looking for an experience, because we do a lot of agritourism as well. And so the houseplant and plant people aren't really our clientele or customer. So I haven't gone after those markets as much. We do, like I said, look at a lot of food Facebook groups. We belong to a lot of them. Sometimes even just making a comment on someone else's post on some of those groups will drive folks to our Facebook page or our website if it's worded correctly.
Cool. I just want to draw some attention. In the Google Doc, we've got Family Roots Farm showing up. We've got Hills Farm and Dakota College that's Quinn is at the North Prairie Farmers Market. And in turn, we have Beagle Hill Organic Farm out of Minot. So if any of you have questions for the panelists, or if you are, if you're doing something that you want to share with other people, this is a great way to also just share some of your best practices, that things have worked well for you. But I want to skip down to how you're using, so Jazmine mentioned that you're using MailChimp. And so I want to talk about like newsletters, mailing lists, and how you've seen them be effective in your business, and just what the process is like in managing that in terms of like frequency, the content that's being written. Are you hiring a copywriter to do it for you? Are you writing it? How much thought and time do you put into it? Just curious about that, because some people can be overwhelmed sometimes when they think about like sending out a regular newsletter, and it can feel like an extra burden. So I'm curious like how you approach that and how you decided it was a good idea for your business.
Sure. Well, it might be pretty applicable for a lot of the folks here. So we grew out of the farmers market, and the way the business started was a subscription service, a bread subscription service. And so the way that we predominantly use MailChimp is less as maybe like a newsletter, but more of a notifying agent. So like when the Thursday subscribers are supposed to come pick up their bread, they pick it up now from our store because we have a brick and mortar location. We send them a little reminder, and we're able to schedule those reminders in MailChimp. So they'll get a Thursday reminder or a Wednesday reminder that says like, your bread subscription's at the store waiting for you, just a reminder. And inside of that, we do add a little story about the bread and perhaps the recipe and maybe something they could make with it. But it doesn't always happen the way. Sometimes we're tired or we just don't get that far. And since that time, it has also grown into, we have a Scone of the Month club, and we have now a gluten-friendly mailing list to let folks know what kind of gluten-friendly products we're going to have each week. And I do have intentions of, yes, sending out like a newsletter to everyone, but to this point, it's really just been to give them the latest, most applicable information to them. And what's really awesome about it is you can just tag them in certain groups. So summer subscription, you can just add the people in and then tag them, and then you just send out an email to all of them. So that's the way that we're utilizing MailChimp. And there's a lot more that it can do, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you mentioned that how you segment it. And then let's consider a really like basic question. Say I don't know anything about MailChimp. How are you getting people onto the list? How are you opting them in? Are you manually entering their emails?
So it's a 2 or 3 prong approach. Our website will collect some information for us. And then we have been manually putting in some information into the mailing list, and especially with the gluten-friendly mailing list, we've been doing that. So I know that there's probably a lot of easier ways, but that's how we've been doing it, with the gluten-friendly in particular.
Yeah, and thinking about how your business, this is a reflection of everything that's online is a reflection of yourself. Your values will shine through in how you portray yourself online. So I'm curious, a lot of bigger companies will hire a creative agency they'll outsource the whole brand guideline stuff. I'm curious then for you, and this is for everyone, whoever wants to jump in, how do you go about deciding like what is on brand for your business, for your company, in terms of visually and also just in the copy, in the wording and the messaging and how you position yourself? Do you have something like a framework that you stay within, and how do you regulate that?
Our framework is more of an approachable storytelling. So Travis runs something called the Minot Story Hour. And so what we're trying to tell through all of our marketing is just the story of what's happening with us. And so we've decided also that we want our messaging to be more about people and the community. And so that is when we've had conversations. Honestly, we don't really want that really polished look, if I'm being totally truthful. We just want more of an approachable storytelling. I'm a human trying to start this bakery. It's crazy. Sort of feel and vibe. And so Travis's emails, he predominantly does the information about the bread for the MailChimp. And so it's often a story about where he learned this recipe or how he came about it. And then maybe a little update on how things are going for us. And so it's more of a storytelling approach for us than it is anything else.
Cool. I love that. And I want to jump into a couple questions that are popping up on the Google Doc. And I was curious about this too, because all three of your businesses use Facebook. And I'm curious if any of you have used Facebook Sales, or there's the new platform, Facebook Shops. And if any of you have set that up, and if so, how's it going? And if not, why not? And how do you use Facebook otherwise?
So we just recently started to use that a little bit, linking our Square site to our hot sauce website. And then I've just been posting every week kind of different flavors that we have and kind of an introduction to what those sauces are like and how to use them. And then it allows them to buy directly through Facebook. I'm not sure that we're seeing the return on that quite yet because it's a bit early to really get the feel for that. But I think anytime that you can make it more accessible, especially via mobile, the more, they always say, like when it comes to websites, the more clicks you have to get into a website, kind of the worse off that you are, because people don't want to dig that hard to find the avenue of a transaction, because chances are if they've made it to your site, they're looking to buy or at least to interact with you on that level. So just trying to bring that to the surface is a large part of why we've linked that for our brand. Our soda brand just isn't the type that we can quite do that yet, because we're direct sales for that, not in retail, and it's not a shippable product yet, but that's something that we'll probably look to move toward in the future. But I think on mobile especially, it's nice to have that avenue where people are looking at just one site to find us and to do that transaction.
Yeah. And Holly, are you using Facebook at all for online sales?
Not for the sales themselves, no.
Okay. And I'm curious, so it's kind of like backtracking here, but I'm curious, before, when you were just getting started in your businesses, how did you decide what platforms you were going to get on, and what influenced that decision?
Well, I came to this as a business owner. I was a fan for a very long time, but I came to it a little bit later in the game. So Travis had been doing the farmers market for a long time, but we were good friends. And so I know that he forced himself to make it to a Facebook. He didn't even have an account. So he got one just to have, I guess, yeah, a presence. And so that's kind of how we first, I think it was just because at that time, more folks were using that.
Yeah. And what about you, Rachel?
We kind of started with all three, being Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram with our hot sauce brand right away. We found that Twitter is one for our brand that's gotten less traction than the other two, so we just devoted our energy more towards those. Just that we're making sure we're getting return on the time spent on the content. And a lot of it for us is just having a presence. So that if you did search for us, it helps us on Google if you can find us by these 3 different outlets than just one. So we kind of just tried to saturate to a certain degree what forms we were using right up front, and then trying to make sure that we use the same brand name for each. So we're OTD Hot Sauce on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so that it makes it easier to find directly who we are. So if you're looking at Facebook but you want to see the pretty pictures of what we're posting on Instagram, that kind of gives you a shortcut to find us that way.
Yeah. And let's just, hypothetically speaking, let's say I am starting a business tomorrow and I want to sell some green beans that I've been growing, and I'm not online anywhere. I don't like the internet, but here we are. And I know I need to get online. I need to do something to just at least let people know about my green beans, because nobody does. Where do I start? Your professional opinions.
I always like to tell people, if we're looking at online marketing, start with the Facebook. Because you reach a lot of people really fast in a very user-friendly way for free. We always want to keep in mind that there are some things you can and cannot sell, not only on Facebook, but you can and cannot sell online. You need to have that direct face-to-face interaction with certain products. Certain products you can go ahead and sell them online. But I tell people start with Facebook because it's like the gateway drug. It's how you get in, how you get your foot in there, and kind of become a little bit more savvy about what people are looking for, where are they, how to find them, what wording might catch people's attention more than somebody, some other wording. And so the thing to remember though with Facebook is that your post goes away very quickly in people's news feeds.
Yeah.
It might stay there on your page, might stay there on Marketplace, but you know what? It's 4 pages back and it's already telling people that this is 3 days old. And I don't know about anybody else, but if there's a post on Facebook Marketplace that I'm looking at, a sewing machine for sale or something, if it's 3 days old, I assume it's sold, even if it says it's not. So you kind of have to put it out there on Facebook, I think, but you have to manage it. You have to take care of it like a baby. You can't just, it's there. Like I'm the old dog in this group. So when we started marketing, there was no Facebook. So I saw everybody's eyes go like, there's no Facebook. But, so back when we started with newsletters, like paper newsletters. And then, having a website was the big thing. And so we've kind of worked our way into this. And what I've found is that for myself and for others, going through Facebook is a great way to do it. Now, I also know some very successful businesses that have Pinterest pages. And do very, very well just by posting the Pinterest pages. And those are the ones that are selling products that are very visual. And so those Pinterest pictures really kind of hook people and bring them in.
Yeah. And I'm also back in the Facebook world. I've noticed that Facebook groups specifically seems to get a lot of action, like a lot more responsiveness and engagement than just say like a business page. Have you engaged in that in a group?
So we used groups for our subscription services too, to let people know that they can sign up for them. So, and what's cool about that is like we're not harassing them. Like they want to be part of the group. They've asked to join. So that's what's nice about that. But then they get the message every time. So it doesn't go away like Holly was talking about, like it actually, everyone gets the message. So yeah, so we've used that for the subscription services, and then we used to do a lot of classes too, sourdough classes and things like that. So the Facebook groups is sort of interesting way to market that might be a little bit more effective than just like a blanket Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think about it in, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Holly.
I use groups in that I don't have a group for our farm or for our customers, but I belong to other groups. And like I said before in the conversation, is I will comment on somebody else in the group's comment. I will reply to that, but then I will reference back to, if you look on our site, you'll see our market setup, or if you look at our site, you'll see how we're growing this or whatever. And that, even though I don't have to manage the group, then I find drives people back to our website and to our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would, if anybody on the call of the participants have Facebook groups that you're a part of that you think would be beneficial for our panelists and for anybody else on the call to jump into, share that in the Google Doc. You can just link it and drop it in there. Because we're within like a tribe here in the like marketing sense. Like Seth Godin talks about how like we have to find our tribe, and we speak the tribe's language. We lead in a certain area of the industry that attracts people who resonate with our similar values or are interested in it. Based on the fact that we are, all in North Dakota for the most part, we're in the kind of small food movement, farmers market, and growing local. Like we're already kind of in a tribe just here. So those groups, people who want to buy local, they want to support small businesses, they will exist in those groups and be excited to support businesses like yours. So it's good to meet them where they're already congregating. And before we go completely off the marketing topic, this is somewhat on the marketing topic still, but I'm curious, when you were approaching building your website, because I want to talk about, like, there are many platforms to select when deciding how you're going to build out your website. What went into you deciding to choose the platform or service that you did choose? And would you have done it any differently looking back on that? And just any tips for somebody who might be getting started. They know they want a website, but they're like overwhelmed with the options. I'd like to hear from all of you kind of how that journey of starting a business website went.
I'll probably start rolling out on that one because, as I said, I've probably had a website the longest. And besides our website for our business, I've set up and managed and still manage 4 other ones for the college. And over the years, I've been on several different website building platforms and applications. And I will tell you, not all of them have been easy, and not all of them are my favorite. And so the reason our personal business is on Weebly is because I find it easiest to use. Now, I find it easiest to use simply because the icons are all where I think they should be, and it's intuitive for me. I have another website that I manage that's on Wix. I use it. It's okay for me, but I don't find it the easiest to use. However, I work with somebody who thinks Wix is the bomb, right? I mean, for them, it's really, really easy. And I guess, and I've used others as well. What I've found is if you try it and you don't like it, don't continue to torture yourself and make yourself use it. Many of these platforms offer a free option to get started. And don't think that you're going to put all this work in on the free option, and you probably are going to put all the work in on the free option and then find out you're going to end up wanting the bigger package because it's going to do more things for you. But start out with that free one to see if, hey, does it make sense where all the icons are? Does it make sense, how to add a new page, how to add new content? Is this easy to use for me? But if you put in a few hours on that and you're just frustrated pulling out your hair, there's plenty other fish in the sea. Find another one.
Very true. Yeah, and also kind of a word of warning is a lot of businesses that reached out for support in the last 2 months at the NICE Center, they had websites built for them maybe 5+ years ago, some people like 10 years ago. And they were built by a web developer and they paid like 10 grand to have it built, and it was on WordPress. And they no longer, or maybe never, had access to the back end dashboard of the website. And in those instances, I couldn't help them because I couldn't get into their site. So in those instances, I encouraged them to move on to one of these cheaper and more user-friendly platforms like a Wix, Weebly. I really am partial to Squarespace because it's just like drag and drop and just move things how you want it, and it's very intuitive. So that's kind of a word of warning. People might try to sell you on like a website and they'll build it on WordPress and they'll probably do an excellent job, but it just depends on, do you also want to have to go back to them anytime you want an update, and do you want to have those communications? Because a lot of people drop off, after a year or two, you can't get a hold of them anymore, which happened with a lot of people who I was working with. So, but that's just a side note. So I'm curious, like Jazmine, what?
I was just going to say, so my web developer friend, for instance, said to me, if you don't have access to your website, you're not updating it enough for it to be relevant. And so his feeling was a good Facebook is better than a website that never gets updated. And so Facebook is very accessible, right? So I often use the call buttons or things like that. And so his feeling was if you don't have access to your website and can't update it, that it wasn't the best use of your money. And oftentimes, if you're having a person build it for you, it's very, very expensive. So I would just weigh that. And I thought that was really good advice. Because I was really worried about the website, and he was just like, unless you're doing a lot of updating, it's just, I don't know if it's as relevant.
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up. If you take a look at our soda brand, flannelfizz.com, that just redirects you to Facebook. So that is an option for you. Like we didn't see the purpose in developing a website for that brand at this point, because we know that keeping updated via Facebook and how to access our product through that was the simplest way for us at this scale of our business right now. We use a Square site through our point of sale, which is Square, for our hot sauce brand. And we did that because we wanted to be able to manage our inventory, because we are in retail. And then we also do farmers markets and web sales. So I needed to know that for a certain flavor, I can sell X amount of bottles without, having to tell my people at the farmers market I'm sold out of this flavor, and I didn't realize it because I sold too much online. Or to tell someone that had ordered online that I'm sold out because I didn't have an inventory management system. So that's a large part of why we went that direction. But if you want to keep it simple, like we did with the soda brand, that is an option for you, where you buy your domain, you buy flannelfizz.com, you set it up to redirect to that URL. And then if people want to purchase from you, they can send you a direct message and you can invoice them through Square. So that's kind of how we started out, even with Off the Deck, just to keep it super simple. And that was something that even just having the messaging through the Facebook app versus our own personal email, that also helped us, because we're busy people, and to have the prompts come to our phone or to our watches to let us know that people are trying to contact us, it made us ultra responsive, which helped our customer relations.
I think that's a really, really great point, is using that web page, the address as a bookmark, if you will, and then just having a redirect page. It gives you that place to go in the future, that place to grow. It gives your customers a way to find you. It gives you more space in searches. So I have several of the small businesses that I work with that are doing just that.
Yeah, that's a great hack. Before I have a question, because you're mentioning Square, I do want to segue into some of like the sales platform, but we have a question in the Google Doc that's staying on the Facebook side of things. And the question is, what are your thoughts on paying for sponsored Facebook ads? And have you ever, or do you consistently?
So I've taken a few like of the free marketing classes, things like that, that are offered in Minot here. And so I have utilized some of it. More recently, I added Google Analytics into my pages so that it's tracking how effective those sales platforms are. Now that can get real crazy. You can just search like how to put Google Analytics onto my website, but it does populate you with some information about whether or not spending your money on those websites is worth it, right? Or and so trying to do that knowledgeably. I've done some of it, but I think the best piece of advice that someone told me was that you need to narrow your market on that, and advertise to the people who are your people, right? So so though you're trying to expand your market, like if you're doing too much of it and you have 2,000 people to hit, you're just not going to be as effective. You probably want to sell to the people who are looking for what you have. And Facebook does a crazy, scary job of analyzing who people are and what they're interested in. And so you can click that in those sponsorships too and say people who are looking for organic products, people who XYZ, and you can click all those boxes. And so that was the best advice that I got in utilizing that platform, is just making sure that you're advertising to people who are likely to buy if you're going to spend money.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So Google Analytics and Facebook sponsored ads let you get into the demographics of who you want to target. Are there any other tools? Because this was actually on my list of questions for you all is, are there any other ways that you're gathering that kind of data or demographic info on your customers?
I don't know that it's so much gathering data as it is leveraging hashtags. So helping people find us by using hashtags like farm to bottle has gotten us our shipments going all throughout the country versus just North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. That's helped us out a lot. Doing things like letting people know that we're local to this area. So, you know, Fargo proud, Red River Valley proud, things like that, or even just hashtagging where we are for an event can also help people find us that way. Because if people are searching for those sorts of things, it just kind of puts us in the queue for that without having to spend money to get there. So that's one we've done a lot of, just trying to figure out what are those keywords or what are those hashtags that kind of get us in a good group of people looking for products like ours.
That's cool.
I want to make sure there's a couple of things that we really cover well. And so Rachel's comment about hashtags is a great segue into that, because I don't have a clue what that means. And my son has been trying to teach me, you know, for weeks now how to use them, and I just don't get it. And here's the point that I want to make is I am sure that we've got 20 some people out there, and then it's going to be seen by more. I'm sure there's more like me out there who, okay, I'm comfortable with Facebook, great, but I don't know what a hashtag is. I don't know how to use Instagram. Analytics, I mean, I do use some, but you know, to a lot of people, that's a big scary word, right? So that's what I want to get at, is part of the point of this webinar was to have Dane explain what kind of services the NICE Center is offering to folks right now, and what is available to them and how they can take advantage of that, because I think that is so important.
Me too.
Well, I'm going to mute everybody and take it from here. No, I'm just kidding. No, the thing is, I have knowledge of a lot of platforms, and I'm an expert of none of them. you can become very, very geeky about things like Google Analytics, and you can start an entire digital marketing agency if you get really good at Facebook ads, like my colleague Scott Meyer at the Nice Center did for 10 years. So you can dive very deep, or you can just get what you need out of it to serve your business and to connect with your customers. So, everybody that we're offering support to in getting online or having marketing support is going to have a different scenario. So the intake call that I have with each person is a lot of me learning where they're at. Do they have anything online? Okay, 0, then let's start here. Or if they are online, let's figure out what's working and pare things down or ramp things up. So that's why it's hard to say like this is a blanket answer all. I think that best practice for being online, I love like what Rachel did with Flannel Fizz. It's like, own a domain. Sure, that's good. It's good for search engine optimization, SEO. You probably heard that thrown around. That just simply means like somebody's Googling Flannel Fizz, flannelfizz.com will pop up in the search, probably pretty high in the rankings. So that's great that they snagged that domain. Doesn't matter, the website's not built yet. It's just building the brand. It's building brand recognition online and keeping it up in the search results. Something that I recommend for every business owner that I talk to is the first question I ask is whether or not they're on, if they've set up Google My Business. Because what happens often is somebody's looking for a product, they're gonna type it in Google. Like if I'm in Minot and I'm looking for bread, I'm gonna type bread in Minot, or maybe it'll just be bread near me and I'm in Minot. And if you have your Google My Business set up, you'll probably be like the first thing to pop up on Google. And what happens when you have Google My Business set up, and there's a link, Google My Business, you can Google My Business, and there's like a tutorial of how to set up your Google My Business. And what it allows you to do is just to have, anybody who's searched on the internet has probably seen this. The little business will pop up on the right-hand side of your screen, and it'll have probably some photos from that company. If as the company, you take ownership of that Google My Business platform, you get to populate those photos. You get to write the copy of the messaging that goes beneath the business. You get to say what hours you're open. You get to make sure that the contact info is there. You can even moderate comments that people are leaving in reviews for your business through Google. So that's like number one that I tell everybody, like, that's yours. It exists on the internet, whether you like it or not. So you might as well own it and make it look and represent your business in a way that you're proud of. So step one. So if anybody reaches out to me for support, that's like the first thing I'm going to tell you. So the surprise is over. Like, just do that. And I can share a tutorial about how to get that set up. I think that it's interesting to talk about like something like the hashtag. Again, it's like, I'm not a hashtag expert. And also it's like one of these things that, like, if you've been using Instagram and Twitter for a while, it's like one of these intuitive things. But kind of a best practice about hashtags. So if you're on Instagram, say, go and search. You can search the little explore button on Instagram and type in hashtag farm to bottle. I think that was what you were saying. So you probably chose farm to bottle because once you searched that hashtag, you saw that there were many other people using it. And so what that meant was, it's a popular hashtag, and there's more likelihood, because it's a popular hashtag, that if you were to hashtag farm to bottle on off the deck hot sauce photo, that then you would pop up alongside the other thousands of farm to bottle hashtagged images. And so you're basically you're throwing yourself in the popular pool where people are already hanging out, which is good. So if you type in a hashtag that's super obscure, and I had this early in my Instagramming days, I was like, oh, I'm just going to own this hashtag because it's like, it'll be all mine. But there's a little, like, yeah, you could own it, but it doesn't help you build, it doesn't help you expand your reach, because if it's too obscure, nobody's going to search for it.
And so maybe we should say what a hashtag is in case someone doesn't. So like, it allows you to like find other people who are into what you're into, kind of like a little thing that you can search that has all the farm to bottle things. And the hashtag is the pound sign, whatever like it might be. So it just allows people who might be interested in something to find other people who are interested in similar things. Is that a good?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that we were having a long conversation about hashtags. Maybe we still didn't know what hashtags were.
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. Another way to think of it is like it is it's like an archival tool, like an archiving tool.
Yeah.
For you to find everything that relates to that category that is explained in the hashtag. So we can talk more about hashtags if you want to talk to me personally, and we can use them for your business. Quick recommendation is like, as a business, if you want to have an obscure one, like own like an obscure one for your business and just have it be like your motto, have it be short and sweet. But like Rachel's talking about, if you show up to a farmer's market, use that farmer's market's hashtag, because other people that are going to be looking in that farmer's market hashtag will then find your photo in the gallery of photos that pop up on the Explore page in Instagram or on Twitter. Are we using Twitter? I don't know. But I'm going to stay away from Twitter. It's a crazy place. Very controversial. I want to make sure to answer or give Rachel an opportunity to answer a question that popped up in the doc, and it was, is anybody creating video content? Like example is cooking videos or behind the scenes videos, and has it been helpful? Rachel, I think you have some experience.
Yeah, we definitely have. So part of it kind of circles back to a question, Dane, you asked earlier, which was basically, how do you want to communicate who you are as a brand? What is your brand voice? At first, when we created Off the Deck, I didn't want our brand voice to be us, meaning my husband and I. But as we've grown as a business, we've realized that that's what people are connecting with. So we do videos pretty much every night when we finish in the kitchen. As we go through harvest, those nights get later and later because peppers need to be harvested within such a short window that a lot of times we're in the kitchen till like, midnight, 2 a.m. just to try to get through the work. I was super skeptical because when the time I get done being in the kitchen, I look terrible. I've been doing a ton of dishes. There's capsaicin involved, so there's that kind of irritation. It's not the prettiest, most polished looking me. Or my husband, and we're delirious because we're so tired. But we record hustle updates, which basically give people a feel for where we're at in harvest, what peppers we're working with right now, and basically the fact that we still love it even though the nights are long. And that has been some of the highest return that we've seen in any marketing that we do, and that we do, even though I was super skeptical about it heading into it. But it's definitely something that we'll keep doing, and then just be genuine, not always showing people the pretty polished, it's not a posed video where, everything looks wonderful. It's, it's us inside our truck with our overhead light on, it's the video quality is not awesome. We don't look great, but people resonate with the work being done because, being farm to bottle and being a local producer isn't always simple, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, it's good to hear because there are a lot of video production, awesome video production companies out there that are willing to make videos, but to just start and to be honest, to be authentic in how you're presenting yourself, it's worked for you, and it goes a long way to communicate just the personality of the people behind the product and the brand. So like for everybody listening on this webinar, if you're getting hung up on how to present yourself and thinking like, well, it's not going to look great, or just keep that in mind, that just being you and sharing your authentic experience in the process of creating your product or growing your food, that in and of itself, it speaks about your brand, and it allows people to connect with the human being behind the company and the business, which is really important. And again, it's fitting right into what this tribe, if we want to call it that, is interested in, which is local growers, local producers, supporting local. Like they want to see the face behind what that is. They're buying this kind of stuff because they aren't interested in like the far off kind of corporate brand.
Two things that I'd like to say about the video piece. One is, not everybody is meant for video. I and my husband do not feel comfortable being on video, and my favorite videos on Facebook are the ones like Rachel's. They're the very candid, you know, I feel like I'm sitting next to that person having conversation, but I personally do not feel comfortable being in front of that camera. So for our Facebook page and our farm, we have kind of adopted our barn dog as the face of our videos. And so I will use an app. There's an app out there that you can take her picture and turn it into a video, or I'll use videos of her to illustrate what we're doing on the farm so that I don't have to be in front of the camera, because I'm not a front of the camera kind of person normally. The other thing is, after you've done a couple of those candid, informal type of videos and posted them, if you have any concerns at all, have a friend, a family member, somebody review them, because there are some people that really are not meant for video. Because I watched one the other day, actually, by a national organization that they're highlighting some of their producers, their farmers all across the nation. And I watched him, and it was almost painful because he was and it was painful. And I thought to myself, how unfortunate, because I really seem to like this guy and his product, but he's not a video person. So I really think that the candid, informal videos are a great way to do it. They are some of my favorites to watch, and I subscribe to a lot of channels where I can watch many of them, and Facebook pages. But keep in mind that we do have some folks that don't want to be on camera. There are other ways. And then we also have some people that maybe shouldn't be on video. And in that case, you know, put your kids on, put your spouse on, put your business partner on. There's always somebody.
Yes, always important to have somebody review. And we are near the end. And so I wanted to thank our panelists for sharing about how they're marketing online, just being transparent with us about what that process is like. All of their links to their websites and their social media accounts are linked in the Google Doc. So go and check out how they've set their stuff up, and follow them on social media. And if any of the way that they have set their businesses up is something that you would like to emulate, or if you'd like some just support in figuring out some strategy for your marketing or setting up a website and knowing which platforms to choose, please reach out to me at, you can do this on, it's listed on the screen there, bit.ly/farms. That'll lead you to a form, and it's just a help request form, and it'll just ask for your name, your business, your contact, a little bit about where you're at, and then I will reach out to you and we'll set up a call, and we'll get a feel for where you're at and what could be most helpful in getting your business set up online. So just know that that is available to you at no cost to you, and I want you to please take advantage of it. There are a lot of tools out there, and I know it can be overwhelming, but they can make your life easier, and the hope is that it'll spread the news of your business to more people, and it'll also make your customers' lives easier because they can more easily get the product or service that you're offering. So we really want to make it about the customer and make it easy for them. So we want to meet them where they're at. So I just want to thank Rachel, Jazmine, Holly for talking openly about your business and just kind of sharing under the hood of what it's like to do marketing and have an online presence, and so important for businesses in this day and age. And so we want to make it easy for you to do that for your business, for your company. So please reach out, and I'll hand it over to Stephanie if you want to say any closing words.
Sure. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dane, for facilitating. And thank you, Holly, Jazmine, and Rachel. You've shared such great information